subsidy. Then number two is that, like I told you, why money spent on fuel subsidy in Nigeria? A sane Nigeria will never support such payment to people that we believe that they are enjoying. The first layers of leadership of organized labor, they are addressing this issue the best way that everybody, all Nigerians will appreciate. And that is why the common position of organized labor and even Nigeria, that government should ensure that there is a reactivation of all the moribund refineries for immediate to address the immediate intervention. That is number one. Then government should ensure that they plan ahead to ensure a construction of new refineries. Then another thing is that we are talking about modular refineries in Nigeria. Modular. All these modular refineries are operating within the confine of the oil producing areas. Then why is government not coming up to legislate and ensure that they legalize the modular refinery, which federal government has been describing as illegal over the years? Then the petroleum refinery should be driven by private sector. So all these issues we are coming up are opinions, both from labor angle and from the populace angle. Then there is need for in fact, we have mentioned it, Saleh pronounced it, that the single operation of exchange rate. There must be a unification of exchange rate, so that you shouldn't have a multiple exchange rates operating within the country. Whose interests are they protecting? The government is able to control this system. I want to believe that most of the problems we are facing will have been mitigated. But like I told you, either government is doing this or labor is that, I want to believe that all of us must have a patriotic disposition to all these issues. But like I told you, no sane Nigerian will want government to continue to pay trillions of naira to unknown people. But the best way to address this problem is what the position of labor over the years has been so particular, that why is government running away from putting in place a workable refineries in Nigeria? Why? Are they interested in importing fuel? Just like the Minister President just issued 6 licenses to new importers. Yes, if only to address it has been ratified within 1 month. But all I know is that the procedure is a process that will come. It's a process. So I want to believe that if government is saying that they are now issuing licenses to importers, well, it's going to liberalize the system, because one Nigerians have passed the resolution that what is the interest of NNPCL, a public liability company, fixing the price for oil for PMS. Immediately, Mr. President announced that fuel subsidy is gone. NNPCL went ahead to fix price. What legal action? What legal authority do they have to fix price for other marketers? Why not allow a liberalized system? And before now, we heard that the NNPCL was the single importer of PMS to Nigeria. Is it possible? They will have been to all those that are benefiting from it. But like I told you, no sane Nigerian will want our money to be paid to people that are unknown to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I already have a hand up. Please feel free at any point in time during this. Even though the SecGen will actually have to come in at some point. I don't know if anybody has. Mr. SecGen, has anybody contacted you yet with any questions? Otherwise, because I can see a hand up here already, so probably we'll go to that. Comrade Abiola Olowoyo, I can see your hand is up. Please unmute yourself. Let's ask you. Is it a question or a comment? But just go ahead straight away.
Good evening, everybody. This is a wonderful discussion, and it can't come better than this time at this state of our national discourse. I welcome the the facility, what's it called? Our visitor to our midst. Is we are happy to have a high caliber person like you to come and discuss the happenings in Nigerian states. Having said that, I have my personal reservation for civil service structure. I believe that what the damage the civil servants have done to this country is so enormous than even the so-called politicians we are focusing our attention on. Politicians are like tenants, while the civil servants are the major landlords. They are the major owners of structures, of ministries and organizations. They are the ones who can make or mend every politician's policies. Even they are the one who teach these politicians on how to go about their corrupt activities. Many of the so-called politicians, when they are coming with the mind to steal one, the civil servants always help them to steal 10. That no, Oga, there's this way we are doing it. And as a matter of fact, when we talk of agitations, when we talk of protests, whatever, how many times are these civil servants protest in the interest of Nigeria? Indeed, can we say that indeed they are protesting in our own interest? They only come out and put all Nigerians at stake when things affect them directly, and under the name that is affecting Nigeria. And on the issue of NNPC detecting the price, I don't think NNPC detect the price with what I had. When NNPC only announced their own price, every other person that now follows suit do that at their own way, because NNPC, to what they make us to believe was that they are now like a limited liability company, which they are profit generating, whatever. So I believe that the organized labor to have a lot to do, as we have issue with our politicians in time of trust issue. We also have interest as citizens, have issue with our labor movement on trust issue, because a lot of damage has been done in the past. So I want the labor movement to also work as they are claiming to be working for us. They too should try to sanitize themselves and make sure that the civil service structures, the public service, the public structures are working indeed for the people. If you check today, there's nothing civil servants have done that is working for Nigeria. Go to almost every civil service this thing. You cannot get dividends for service from them. But look at what private sectors are doing. We still find hope. So I think that's my area of concerns. Where are our civil servants or civil service structure or labor working on this? Thank you.
Wow. Basically, you're turning the table back on the civil service. Anyway, I think in fact, this is the most appropriate person who can actually answer the question. He's a member of the national executive of the Nigerian Civil Service Union. And of course, someone I can, like I said at the beginning, someone I can always vouch for his integrity and everything. But you've spoken generally, talking about you've actually said the civil service is more of a problem in Nigeria than even the politicians, and you've challenged quite a few. But Comrade Gbenga, let me leave it with you. So if you just want to respond to that. Comrade Gbenga, I'm thinking is okay. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, go on, Comrade Gbenga, just go on.
What is the question, please?
Oh, okay. Oh, I think your connection went bad when he spoke. I don't want you to spend that much time. Okay, let me go back to him again. Comrade Olowoyo, can you repeat what you said?
Yeah,
that's a contribution.
My question is
Comrade Olowoyo, let me let you just summarize it in 1 minute so you can take it up.
My question is that we appreciate the fact that our politicians has issue, but I think I'm also thinking that we also have an issue with our civil service structure.
I got it.
Yeah, that's it, sir.
Let me respond to that.
Okay, go on, Comrade Olowoyo.
First and foremost, I want to appreciate Mr. Abiola Olayiwola for his opinion, because he has just expressed an opinion. And opinion can be expressed from the point of view where you think you've seen it, but you've not seen it all. And from time immemorial, there's no way you may not have bad eggs within the system. We have people that the minor, the accountant general, among others, among the but I still want to say that the civil servant and public servant into the upliftment of Nigeria as a country can never be wished away. And it is when you from an angle that you apportion blame to certain sector of the system. And over the years, you have had so many names of public servants who have contributed to the survival and the growth of it. From the point of view of that, we see how many of them who are still doing best and better, even the previous leaders. So, on the system,
your line is not a bit bad.
Pardon?
Okay, we can hear you now.
We have had
situations where, yeah, go on.
We have had situations where we see politicians actually asserting their authority by promoting what we call a governance. And you should expect that politician comes. Politician will tell you that I'm assessing my political power by even decisioning some civil service rules. But that the system is not static. It's a dynamics in the system, and I want to assure you that the upcoming public servants will never allow a system to be as porous as that of previous one, because there's a arrangement in the system, and everybody knows where he has the capacity to operate. But I want to tell you now that in system of Nigerian project, public servants still contribute not less than 8% to the upliftment of our economy and industrialization of the system. So, but I want to say once again that the federal government should promote what we call it rolling plan. There must be a policy that projects that within the next 10 years we should be able to achieve this. Within the next 5 years we will be able to achieve this. And we realize that only this particular policy came to explain General Gowon brought out what we call rolling plan. Society has never come up with a rolling plan that will try to get a policy sustainability. We call it sustainability. This is allowed in the context of Indian policy. And that's why I can now say civil servants are not doing best. That's why I say that a politician will not come and say, this is my 5-point agenda, my 7-point agenda. Whose agenda are they protecting? When we have a legislated policy guide, will actually put us in a very clear, what we call clear terrain, where everybody will know that within the next 2 years, we're able to achieve this. Within the next 5 years, we're able to achieve this. Within the next 10 years, we're able to achieve this. Even employment creation, generation of employment for youth. These things are lacking. You cannot be operating and applying the same drugs for the same disease at the same time. If you are applying a system, if that system is not working as expected, you change it. During the Gowon era, the system was working well. The system worked well, and it's because there was a plan. Here you have an education system, you have a project, industrialization project, you work towards it and achieve it. When Dangote was planning to establish the refinery, he projected it and he pursued it and achieved it. You can't be saying you are okay, look at the refinery now. What is the government's projection for before establishing refinery in Nigeria? Do they have any projection? What is the projection in the recent? Let whoever that is responsible for the reactivation of these refineries. Let them come up with what they have written, setting a target for the workability of those refineries. None, because there was no a sustainable rolling plan policy for reactivation of the system. So on the basis of this, you see, we have so many problems confronting this country, and one of the problems is each government will come and say to this one will come and say to agenda. I have 5 agenda. One are able to achieve to the 100% completion. It is because they are trying to protect their own interest. But what I'm saying in essence is that one of the high points of our discussion this night should be that government should come up with sustainable rolling plan policy that will actually put our country into a very right step in a very right direction. If you continue to pursue an agenda that is different from a policy that will impact positively in the life of Nigeria, we will never get it right. And that is why you can see lecturers going on strike for 8 months. Nobody, doctors will go on strike, nobody is concerned. Students will be suffering, nobody will be concerned. Vulnerable group will be suffering, nobody will be concerned. Workers will not be able to go to office because they have money to pay for transportation due to fuel subsidy, nobody is concerned. So all these things, we have to show some sense of commitment, a sense of concern to all the segments of Nigeria so that the country itself can see peace. Because when you look at the insecurity of itself, insecurity is caused by hopelessness. Hopelessness, yeah, that is the fact. When you are hopeless, you begin to think we have a space in our mind. A space in our mind be occupied by evil thoughts. That's why you can now see that not sleep with 2 eyes closed in Nigeria. God should be able to come up with a sustainable plan policy to move our country to a greater height.
Thank you so much, Comrade Gbenga. I know network has done us a bad of a beat. It's done us some negativities there because there were certain aspects where you said certain things that we didn't quite catch. But I mean, I think everybody would have grabbed at least 90% of what you were saying. Network will just mess up every now and then, but we're doing well. And I'm very mindful. I don't even want you to mess with anything from your end again, so that we don't lose you. This conversation is so interesting. I've got a lot of questions to ask you about the palliatives, the specific demands from government and everything, but I don't want to go into that. And I know our director of the political action director, Sheido, who wants to ask a question at some point. But let me first of all go to Olowoyo Ajayi. And of course, I know Usman Okunuga is raising up his hand as well. But let's start with Olowoyo Ajayi. Olowoyo Ajayi, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Harold. Good evening.
Sorry, I didn't know whether to say Mrs. or Mr. because you know Olowoyo is unisex in our country, you know. So.
Anyway, I didn't say Mr. or Mrs. in other names though, but I'm a female.
Thank you. So just go on.
In other names, I'm a female. So good evening, everyone. Good evening. I've been able to grab some few things because the network from Gbenga side was not too good. I just got some few things. But the last person that asked question, my question is a follow-up to the private sector and the public sector. I'm a private sector for a very long time. I've never been in the public sector. Things that happen and that you come in the private sector and there are some things you hear and you are like, is this really happening? So my question is, let me be there so that I won't really waste time. I realize comrades, what do we call them now? Activists, you know, they have this attitude of coming out to defend politicians a lot. That's what I see. That's what I noticed. That will always happen. So if you try to bring up questions about this person is doing this person, an activist is always ready to defend. I don't know why. Maybe because of nepotism. It could be because of so many things. Now, in this, we do not really have the justice. We do not. We have a culture of sympathy, nepotism, and tribalism. You know, it's like this person is for my hand. If it happens to him, why are we not penalizing someone from somewhere? So our culture of justice is very weak. It's not working. It's not working. Justice is not served anywhere. And you can buy it, it's for highest bidder. So, and that is a lot of concern for me. So as a person, as a lady, as a private sector person, and as a career woman, I find it difficult to trust politicians because I know most of the things they do is in their own interest. In their own interest. It's not always in the interest of the people. And what is governance? Governance is providing security. What did they tell us in government now? Securing the people. One of the functions of government is to provide utility goods at affordable prices. But all those has been wiped away from the governance in Nigeria. First of government far more expensive than the private one. So now is the government that set the high price, then private follows. So there is nothing about security. There's nothing about providing for the masses. There's nothing about so many functions of governance are not happening. And yet we keep on saying, let's give them another 5, 10, 20, 15 years. Sorry, I am 53 years old, sir. And I've been hearing this story for long. Okay, democracy came like 30 years ago, am I right? 1999, 24 years ago. This current dispensation, 24 years ago. I was almost 30 then. And I had so hopes and aspirations, things that I believe will happen in the next 5, 10 years. Lo and behold, nothing has happened. And somebody wants to cajole me into another 15 years when I will be almost 70. So what is happening to just listen to response and leave, because I hardly join things like this. But I just want to know, what are you guys going to say? What is happening to the culture of justice in Nigeria? What is happening? Is it not the highest bid? And is it going to be continue like that? And if you don't get this, we think the rich can get anything they like, the poor cannot get it, then we're going nowhere. Because it's the rich, the influential, the politicians, they are in charge of the national purse. So they do it anyhow they like. And so we now continue to breed more Yahoo boys, more prostitutes. Do you understand? And nobody wants to write white on their own, like we're reading to write then. People want to brag. Because everything, you can just go do anything without the normal thing. There is no norm again in Nigeria. It is the way I want it done. So what is happening to the culture of justice? So that I don't talk too much. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. You've actually said a lot. You've covered so much, Ms. Olubumi Ajayi. I want to thank you for actually joining. And Comrade Gbenga, she's actually gone deep into things. Is Labour kowtowing to the government of President Tinubu out of maybe a feeling that he's a Southerner, and then the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajero, and the TUC, they're both Southerners. Comrade Gbenga Olowoyo is even from the tribe of the current president. I mean, these are things that, and you've actually heard what Ms. Olubumi Ajayi just said. There are those suggestions from certain people. And that is why we're actually asking key facts in this. Is there a suggestion that, because she says she's from the public sector, and it does appear that even the private sector that it would appear that she's from the private sector, but it would appear that there is a distrust or mistrust between the private sector and the public sector, and there seems to be not as much trust for organized labor as before. People are not really too sure that can we rely on labor to fight for us, to fight for our rights. I believe I hope I've summarized what you said to a large extent, Mrs. Ajayi. But basically, you heard everything she said, Comrade Gbenga Olowoyo. Let me give you the chance to respond.
Yes, well, I want to appreciate Lady Olubiri Ajayi for thought-provoking submissions. And from the point of view, I will just attend to the issues briefly because she raised so many issues that are very controversial and very sensitive. When you are talking about Nigeria as a country, Nigeria is a combination of so many tribes, and everybody is having that right to be a leader, president at one time or the other. And you only raise issues. Nobody should look at issue from sentimental or ethnic perspective because all of us have share of the blame. We have the share of the blame. Even I put up a write-up towards the build-up of the election. I said, no youth should come out and blame anybody. Anybody that wins this election and won, anybody that wins this election Nigerian youth should be held responsible. And when you look at the percentage of qualified voters in Nigeria, if issues that politicians are this, politicians are that, in what way that went out to cast their votes for who they want, and who they want won the election, and you are now blaming politicians. If within the context of your ward, the context of your constituency, the context of your senatorial district, you cannot effect change. That's what you blame. This is an issue that all of us should make claim to the blames, because an individual cannot impose himself or herself on you unless you voted for him. And that is why we must have what we call a self-searching, evaluation. We must evaluate ourselves through a soul-searching. We must search our hearts, search our brain, search our conscience, that are we actually doing the right thing as a Nigerian, as Nigerians? Anybody that wins, let us look at it. How do we now assist and get it right? I've raised an issue just now. I said, in whatever way, even you, Ajayi, assuming tomorrow you are governor of your state, I don't know which state you come from, will you not come up and say you want to pursue 1, 2, 3, 4 agenda? Why can't we look at a broad-based, acceptable policy that will benefit the entire nation? Let's always use our peace and send to the assembly.
Comrade Gbenga, I'm sorry to be interrupting you, sir. Now she to further solidify her point, she did make the point here. Organized labor only bring us out when they are affected. So basically, what she's suggesting is that only when it affects you, that's when you only shout. When it affects other sectors, public, private sector, others, you don't. That's what she's written here.
Let me tell you one thing. That is, I will describe that as adversarial comments. All sectors have their blames, and when somebody is blaming a sector like organized labor, you may not know the point of view she's making that blame. She might develop hatred to that sector. But I must confess to you that it's not possible that we only pursue the issue that bothers us as public investors. But look at that time when Emefiele was talking about not obeying his order. The Labour NSC issues gave ultimatum, and he backpedaled. And ordinarily, he also obeyed the Supreme Court order willingly. But until when Labour now gave an ultimatum, are you now saying that such ultimatum was meant to protect only labor, only organized labor? It is not. We have cases, in fact, there were situations where, okay, look at the issue of subsidy. Transportation has gone up, fare has gone up, everybody is affected. And we have said this has been an issue, and we want to go back again. I said, government ought to all of us are having part of the owners, passengers, the Bougians are affected. A Bougian that we fill is tank 15,000 naira before, we now spend 60,000, 65,000 to fill a tank of a car, irrespective of the type of cars. You now say that labor is to protect its interest alone. No. So, but like I told you, opinion is free and facts are sacred. But on the basis of the fact that I wouldn't want to be repeating a name so as not to appear as if I'm making a comment that will amount to intimidation, which I can never do. But all I know is that we have our adversaries. Even if you are doing good, they will say you are not doing the right thing. But all I know is that as Nigerians, we must join our. You said that we are protecting politicians. Nobody protecting politicians. We protect Nigeria as an entity. But like I told you, we have done a social research, and if you have 10 different governments, and the 10 different governments are coming have it right. Have it right. Because there must be what we call a sustainable policy projection. A sustainable policy projection. Even this platform for liberty and democracy, of our resolution this night, that the federal government of Nigeria should begin to embark on what we call a sustainable policy projection. And that is why you have this what we call SDG, as a sustainable development goals. They know where this idea is coming from. Why are we now? We are patronizing this idea, but we are not actually selling the idea in Nigeria. The policy guides of Nigeria should be sustainable. You must begin to have what we call a running plan. You cannot do it. You have even the out of government itself. Somebody will come and somebody that will come, but there are some fundamental issues. There are some fundamental policy that can never be compromised. The education policy can never be compromised. What this industrial policy can be compromised. What we call about the employment generation policy can never be compromised because you continue to have you cannot have policy. You see, all these things are lacking. You cannot be a leader and not be able to have a projection that will better the lots of the masses. You must have a security policy projection. That is why chief become its own policy, NSA become a policy. You can't be doing individualistic policy because the government itself is corporate. It's a corporate, we call it corporate governance. So corporate approach to governance in Nigeria is individualistic. It is individualistic. You cannot be a minister of justice and come and begin to your own individual interest. You can be a minister of education, and that is why you can see that Adamu the sector very well. Look at the employment activity. It's an individual policy that should be guided. And one of your resolutions this night should be that the federal government of Nigeria should pursue what we call a sustainable policy projection, which address the problem in this country. You cannot continue to make plans and begin to blow grammar without actually coming up with policy that actually address the problem we are facing in Nigeria. See, you must walk the talk. The electricity policy, can you imagine, by July 1st, the electricity tariff will be increased by 40%. Why? Why that? Why? What interest are they protecting? Why are they coming up with 40% tariff increment? Why? Let them justify it. It's because the policy guide is lacking. We move from what we call ECN to NEPA, from NEPA to PACN, from PACN to Disco. What type of grammar are we talking? But when you look at the policy underline, the policy underline of this directionless. They have no direction. So you cannot agree with me, but I'm telling you, it must come to a point where we all agree. And our agreement should start from the standpoint that the government of Nigeria should come up with a sustainable policy position, within the context of some critical sectors of the economy. So these are issues that we need to emphasize. Repetition means emphasis, and when I'm emphasizing this particular projection policy guide, it's I must address the problem. You can't be talking to me, you can't be talking to students. Don't nowadays in university, we suffer so much in the hands of Abacha, in the hands of Babangida. We're supposed to finish school with 1 year, we spend 7 years. And you say government is planning for, government did not plan for us. Look at it, we are all victims. We are all casualties. Casualties are not only those who are there, they don't know people out instrumentally. The burial are taking place instrumentally. The economic burial. And we have nobody is happy. Please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Gbenga. I have a few hands raised, and I'll be going to them. But let me just read a comment there. I think this was in response to Mrs. Olubume Ajayi. Comrade Adediran Samuel actually wrote here, I totally disagree with you. The organized labor comprises leaders from private sector and the public sector. Now, before I take the next question, Comrade Gbenga Olowoyo, we heard from the president of the Trade Union Congress. Okay, Ms. Olubume Ajayi, I'm actually not looking for agreement. I know what I'm saying. I love the conversation that is going on, so whatever comments are there, we'll actually read them out. Now, we heard from the president of the Trade Union Congress that organized labor is asking for a minimum of 200,000 naira as minimum wage for workers in the public sector. And of course, you have the NECA as part of your negotiating partners. The National Employers Consultative Assembly, I believe. Now, I need to ask, what is the true position? Is the underlying position 200,000? Because people are saying you're just doing it like marketing, like you're selling goods in the market, and that labor has just said, okay, let's even start from 200, so we'll start pricing it. And that people have suggested that maybe where you're going is about 50,000. So I'm asking the question, if, for example, tomorrow the federal government of Nigeria says, and all the states, and the NECA come back to say, well, you know what, we can only afford, I'm just saying, get me right, minimum wage of 50,000 naira for the lowest paid public sector worker, which will actually dovetail into the private sector as well because of NECA's involvement. Are we to expect demonstration and strikes on labor? Because, look, this is not me trying to preempt you. It says that Nigerians as well want to know, what is organized labor doing? What are your plans? is there going to be, are there going to be disruptions down the line? Is there a red line? Like, some governments, some world powers will say, well, our red line, if someone uses a nuclear weapon or something, what is a nuclear weapon that the government can use that will constitute a red line for organized labor? And please, Sheyi Dowu and Usman Okunuga, get ready for your questions. I'm coming to you next. Comrade Gbenga, you go on. Just answer that before I go to this.
Okay, I would say under collective bargaining principles, you don't come up with a fixed mind. When you are presenting your demands, you don't set what you call a regimented mind, because you don't know the minds the other side is coming with. And that is why when Labour proposed 200,000 as minimum wage, and when you are talking about minimum wage itself, is supposed to be a product of a process, a product of a procedure. And I would say that the matter before National Economic Council that has set up a committee that will come up with minimum wage. I would say that the representatives of people on that committee will equally be in a very serious alert to ensure that nothing is compromised to the expectation of Nigerian workers. And one thing I want to tell our people at home and all over the world is when you are talking about public servants, if you are calculating public servants as 1 million, I must confess to you that you multiply 1 million by 6 people, minimum, because each worker has dependents. Both from macroeconomy. And these are issues that from sensitive perspective. You should not continue to apportion blame to public servants because all sectors are involved, be it private and public sector. National Employer Council, NECA, is playing a very critical role in governance. And we talk about all OPS, organized private sectors are playing a very critical role in the working in the work. And government is, I don't want to overflow the issue, but like I've said, I cannot tell you, and I will not say, because I have told you and told that world that we are conscious, we are sensitive, and we are very careful. By the time we get to the big, you know how to do it. I'm sorry like that.
Thank you so much, Comrade Olowoyo. There's always a politician in the labor leader. So Comrade Olowoyo has just played the politician there. He's always a straight talking man, but at least this is the first time I'll see him, stylishly dodging my question. But I get it. You're trying not to let all your cards out there. And I also respect your position that you're not setting any red lines in effect. But obviously, we'll come back. I believe there'll be other questions. I know the SecGen indicated at the beginning that Comrade Sheyi Oban, Comrade Oban wants to make a comment, wants to say something, and after that I go to Comrade Usman. So Comrade, just unmute. Let's hear from you.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, convener.
I thought we saw you at the beginning. We can't see you anymore, but just go on. No worries.
Okay. So my good evening, Comrade Gbenga Olowoyo. Nice having you around. And
thank you very much.
justice to the matter under discourse. Listening to you, I would say that it is actually very pitiable, very unfortunate, to say the least, that one would comprehend that Nigeria has over four refineries and none is actually functioning, for upwards of some reasonable years now. The complexities, surrounding the subsidy regime, which has actually made transparency and accountability almost impossible, the things that would have to be unraveled. Part of which, of course, is the issue of the crude oil swap deal, with refining countries. My understanding of that is a situation where Nigeria swaps its crude, with refining countries and still pays subsidy for us to get refined products. It's very unfortunate. Cultures like this would, of course, make it very, very impossible, for accountability. And that is, of course, what the enemies of the nation had continued to hide under, to perpetuate this evil under the guise of fuel subsidy. Yes, the argument forth and back about the president's speech. For once, I thought that I limited my understanding to the fact that the president was only emphasizing the obvious by saying that subsidy is gone. The obvious is to the extent that, yes, the 2023 appropriation bill had no provision for subsidy payments. All right? However, people have now argued, as you have rightly opined in your opening remarks, Comrade Gbenga, that the federal government had made provision for subsidy up until June of 2023. All right? Meanwhile, the GMD, or I don't know its nomenclature now, of NNPC, that's the CEO of NNPC, had said that for about 6 months now, the whole of 2023, the federal government had not remitted a kobo to NNPCL, to pay subsidy. That NNPC had continued to pay subsidy from their proceeds, that they've not been able to draw monies from the federation account for the payment of subsidy, meaning that NNPC would, of course, not remit anything to the federation account under the guise that they've been using the money to offset subsidy claims. Now, in my own opinion, and this is without any form of partisanship or sympathy to any political establishment or interest, all right? If the president comes in, and also note that the president must be very mindful of the resistant and disconcerting forces in the presidency once you step into that place. It's on record that President Buhari once said during his electioneering that subsidy was a scam, that in fact there was nothing like subsidy. One would have expected that Buhari would get into power and immediately remove subsidy. But it became utterly difficult for Buhari to remove subsidy because you would discover that the complexity of that office, of the Nigerian state at its web, often has demonstrated that it would impose difficulty on whoever occupies that exalted position to take certain decisions. People will start rationalizing from left, right, and center why it is difficult for you to do it now. Tinubu must be aware. I'm not in his mind, but I put myself in his shoes to understanding that once you step into that seat, outside that day, to emphasize and make it clear as a policy direction that he would not subscribe to subsidy from day one. Because if you said, yes, let's wait till Buhari, why would Buhari even say wait till June? before the implementation of what you've not even been paying for, what you've been using, what you've imposed on NNPC to continue to use their own proceeds to pay since January of 2023, which is indebtedness on the part of the Nigerian state. Now, that has only demonstrated cowardice on the part of the ousted administration to say, oh, okay, and because Labour made came up with issues around that time, you now say you deferred it. You deferred the evil day to the next administration by saying, let it wait till June when I'm out of there. So, in essence, Buhari lacked the courage to remove subsidy. All right? So yes, I agree that there is a disconnect. There is, because all of this uproar that we are seeing now is a function of the disconnect and the distrust, that exists between the Nigerian people and the government of Nigeria and the leadership of the country. Nobody believes in anything that is coming from up there. And of course, this is what is being demonstrated. If it were to be in a country where there is a functional trust or confidence, on the part of the people, of the governed.
Round up, Comrade, if you just summarize. Sorry, because of our time. You're going.
It's okay. It's all
just
right.
Summarize your point.
In summary, Comrade, I'm not sure I have much of a question to give you rather than just sharing my thoughts. However, of course, I'm sure you've been able to jot out something. But then for me, I hope I'm an incurable optimist that the system can work, that all that is missing is right leadership. However, I hope we'll have a pro-people government in place right now, a government that will imbibe the left of center thinking, mindset, and mentality in its approach to leadership and governance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Sheido. Please permit me, Comrade Olowoyo, to just take, this will be the last question or comment as well. So you take everything together towards the end of the program so that we just know everything is done with. Let me call Comrade Usman, Comrade Okunuga. Yeah, let's hear from you, please. Okunuga, unmute yourself and let's hear from you. Okay, Taiwo Okunuga. Oh, it's Taiwo Okunuga actually. Taiwo Okunuga, can we hear from you? I can see your hand up. Oh, okay. I think there's a problem with your device. We can't hear you properly. We can't hear you.
Or you mean, I don't know. I was confused. I was confused too.
Go on. We can hear you now. Go on.
Maybe Usman was raising his hand. Okay.
No, you go on, Taiwo. I just saw it. So go on, please.
Okay, me. Okay. I'm not Usman.
Okay.
We have always mixed our identities, but it's fine. I said you have always mixed up our identities, but it's fine.
Thank you so much for understanding.
I said, convener, you have always mixed up our identities.
Yeah, I heard that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'll get you right.
It's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, a lot people have spoken, and I just tried as much as possible to align myself with, particularly with the opinion, with the submission of Comrade Sheido Oban, financial experts in the house. Dilemma. Before Tinubu has have the parallel market. Now, of the two markets, one would expect that the value of dollars and the values of pounds sterling should not go above the CBN rate as of then. Sterling was 590. At the end, sold for as high as 950, 960. Now, by the time Asiwaju made the pronouncement that there was no longer to be double markets because he wanted to unify the system, the expectation was that the CBN rate, the after his pronouncement, should not be higher if it was actually intended to be pro people, to be a policy designed for the people for the people and not the government. But it was also awful that by the time just within 24, 48 hours, the value of dollars swung from below $400, below 400 to 750. Minimum is 700. And then pound suddenly jumped from 590 at the CBN market to 580. So I want to know if there are some economic principles that guided this, or as usual, our leaders just make pronouncements of policies without background check, and then the consequences tell back on the people they seem to be advocating some of these policies, for. So that is my dilemma. I want to just know why the value just went above the CBN rate. Rather it should drop to be below the CBN value as it was before Asiwaju came on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Taiwo, State Coordinator of your state. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Thank you. Once again, apologies for the mix-up. I'll hopefully we'll get it right at some point. Now, Comrade Gbenga, you've listened to the last two, those who posted questions and comments. I just want you to address it in the next 6-7 minutes before we end tonight's session. What are your perspectives on the things they've said? And I know one is asking you the question that should be going to a CBN governor, for example. But you know what? Organized labor, we Nigerians look up to you so much. We believe you have answers to everything, and you talk with the government in power. So it's only fair enough that people ask you some of these questions. So over to you, Comrade Gbenga.
Yes, I want to appreciate the comments of the last two speakers, and to go straight to the point because of time. Sheyi Idowu was able to mention the issue of finance. Is very pathetic indeed, and that is one of the high points of labor position that government should bring into place these moribund refineries. Then the crude oil swapping. I think the president has already overruled that they must pay in cash. And I want to believe that will bring up a very good hope for the economy of this country. Then the issue of fuel subsidy, I've been issue. I'm one of the people that will tell you that it's a make-believe concept. When you are talking about fuel subsidy payment, it's a make-believe. It's a creation of wealth for the elite. But as it is, you cannot understand except you are inside. But all I know is that how can government be making provision for trillions of naira and they are paying to some people when you are doing crude oil swapping and you are importing fuel and you are paying subsidy for people for importing fuel? It's beyond understanding. It's nice to be. So about payment from can you actually grasp the logic that NNPCL brought in shortly after the exit of President Buhari? Shortly after his exit, when they said the government has not paid refineries when they were actually paying refinery on behalf of government. How logical is that? You see, it's a creation of it's a creation from these our leaders. And that is one reason why I describe it as a classified information. It's an information that you cannot even have access to. They tell you and you believe it. And that is why when you look at issues from all these angles, all segments of government that are responsible for evaluation and auditing of government records. Are they not working? You may say they should not say it out because it's classified. It's a form of protecting the hegemony to continue to perpetuate themselves and protect their own interests at the detriment of the vulnerables. So you have made the comment, you have made a very brilliant comment there, and like I've said, okay, let me quickly talk on this issue of monetary policy. You see, yes. Mr. President has appointed an essay on monetary policy in Nigeria that will actually monitor the operational tenets of the policy of the monetary policy of this country. And it is on the basis of this that I want to reassure you that the government that is in place, I want to believe we will learn from the past mistakes of the past leaders. And learning from the mistakes of the past leaders, you should be able to now come up, like I've said, and I will continue to emphasize, that there must be need for what we call sustainable policy projection. That rolling plan, there must be rolling plan, make a policy, 5-year policy guide that will actually protect the interests of the coming generation. The generation of our present leaders is already winding up. But those that are coming behind, what will they say? What will they say? They are meeting on ground from these leaders. And that is why whoever is coming, whoever is there, and the person that is there now must be able to now come up with a policy projection. I will continue to sing this song until when government is reasonable enough to take the bulls by the horn by ensuring that there is a rolling plan for the policy projection for the country to address myriads of problems that are facing the government, the country. Nobody is happy. Everybody is suffering. Which family will tell you that it's comfortable? You want to buy fuel, you cannot buy fuel. You cannot buy 3,000 fuel to your car. 3,000 fuel is around less than 6 liters. You can, when you buy 10 liters, you have to spend 6,000 naira. You cannot say you want to buy 5,000 liters, you cannot take you 10 liters. And you say you can't survive it. You cannot survive. But let government come up with a policy projection. This issue of NNPCL, this issue of moribund refineries, if there are projections, it will not be like this. Government that is coming will start up. Government that is going will have started up. Years, President former president cannot put on the refineries. You see, and you are talking about, and somebody, an individual, was able to plan that within 4 years, within 5 years, within 6 years, you'll be able to put in place a refinery. He was able to achieve it. What are we talking? We should maintain our sanity. This is an insane system. Nobody is happy. I'm not happy as an individual. Organized labor is not happy. Even our fathers are not happy. Those that are happy now are people that are privileged. The privileged few. Very unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Olowoyo. You know what? I want to appreciate. It's just been a very fantastic session. And before I call on our Secretary General to do what he usually does, we got a message from her talking about the refineries, the inability to put the right refineries in place. Comrade Urban, it's really illogical. And I agree with you that somehow government has not been able to put it together. I want to thank Mrs. Olowoyo for joining us as well. It's been a pleasure having you with us in our midst. And of course, I'm going to call on our secretary shortly to give the vote of thanks. But I want to say that we've got to do this. We've got to, of course, we are going to come out with a communique on what we've done today. And Comrade Olowoyo has repeatedly he's repeatedly referred to certain things that should be required of government. And of course, some of the vibes that have come out of today's program as this thing, there's still certain people who seem not to be fully trusted in organized labor, because people keep, I've seen those messages again and again. The organized labor only calls us out when they have a problem, when it affects them and impacts them. But we should not also forget that this same organized labor under, Chief Michael Imodu, under Adams Aliyoshimole, and some of those great ones have really been there at the very critical junctures of Nigeria. And even when we had organized labor under people, with all apologies, under the late Pascal Bafiawu, who some of us actually considered not to have fully represented the interest of the oppressed in the society. We still have the Nigerian Bar Association, Nigerian Medical Association. Many will remember Olowoyo of the NBA. He was like a woman. We still had some of these components of MBA, of NLC actually being out there to fight for the masses. And of course, the negotiations will go on. Comrade Olowoyo would love to bring you back within a couple of weeks if you can make out time for us, because we know you're going to resume the negotiations. And government and labor are committed to, is it 6 weeks or thereabouts, in ensuring that you have a solution to this. And everybody, our eyes are all on you, because number one, people are looking at it. Will labor achieve anything on behalf of all of us, or is there something that is that going to be disruption to life, because to our social life, our economy in terms of strikes and all those things? Of course, I know you didn't answer those questions straightforward, because I know that you probably won't put all your weapons out there. But Comrade Gbenga, we need to bring you back within the next couple of weeks if you have the time. Thank you so much. I'll be reaching out to you on that.
Before your summary, I want to pass this information.
Okay.
Our leaders who are the first, second, third layers of organized labor, they are doing justice to all those issues we are raising. And Joe Ajero, our president NSC, president of CIFO, TUC, and other supporting leaders, they are going to do justice to it. And even we that are foot soldiers, we are very optimistic that better things will come out, and we give it to them, because the present leaders have been so scientific, just like the previous ones, and I want to believe that they will not let Nigerian workers down. That's my final statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Comrade Gbenga. And before I call on the second, this is just to express the condolences of the Platform for Liberty and Democracy to those who lost their lives in the Tridmore Estate in Lugbe, Abuja, which was really devastated by flooding over the weekend. It's such a sad story to tell. One would have thought that maybe it's coastal cities like Lagos and some others that are really having problems from flooding and all these things, but to see a major estate, the Tridmore Estate in Lugbe, Abuja, overrun by flooding and people losing their lives, it's been so sad. And of course, those who lost their lives in the Titanic sub, condolences of the Platform for Liberty and Democracy to them. And let us call on the Secretary General of our organization to give the vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener, for the job well done. I want to sincerely, at this time, I got wowed, and I'm beginning to wonder that if you have the likes of Comrade Olowoyo, championing the cause in a better perspective than the current position where he is, Nigeria will be a better country. We actually need realistic people. We need people who have solutions to our issues, and we need people who can realistically address issues the way they are. So on this note, on behalf of Platform for Liberty and Democracy, I want to sincerely appreciate you for joining us on this program this evening and for doing justice the way they are to this issue. We sincerely appreciate you, and we did not take your presence for granted. And like my convener said, we will not hesitate to bring you back in the coming weeks because as the negotiation is ongoing with the federal government, we also want to be carried along. We want the citizens and the good people of Nigeria to know what is going on. And we also want to implore you as one of the representatives of our civil organization, civil society and the labor, to see on how the interest of Nigeria will be prioritized. Because over time, Nigerians have lost interest in the leadership of labor unions. We want this trust to be reinvested. We want you to make us proud. And we believe that we get better deals in our negotiation with the federal government. So we sincerely appreciate you and we thank you for coming. In the same vein, we also appreciate all our leaders, our social media audience, people who joined us in this transformational journey. We sincerely thank you and we appreciate you all for being a partner in making Nigeria a better country. Thank you so much, everyone, and God